Boldwood presents Summer Nights in Pine Harbor, written by Tammy Robinson, and read by Katie Budare and Greg Stiliano Burns. Chapter 1. Taylor. Normally, the open road and the wind on my face would be enough to put me in a good mood. A night owl by habit, I craved moments like this. The stars overhead, my headlight highlighting the curves of the road. Just a few short hours ago, I'd climbed into my beloved king-size bed with the luxurious linen I'd splurged on from that expensive shop on Lexington Ave, thinking it was just the end of another ordinary day. Tired, but satisfied. Ready to do it all again tomorrow. Instead, as tomorrow dawned, I found myself riding through the night to answer a call for help. Even when dawn eventually came, chasing away the dark and bathing the sky in delicate shades of pink, yellow, and orange, it did nothing to improve my mood. I was too annoyed. Annoyed with idiot drivers on the road who failed to give way and cut corners too close to the line. With my mother for her middle-of-the-night phone call. But most of my annoyance was directed towards my great-uncle Ray, whose carelessness had necessitated the call. 94 or not, the man should have taken more care with his foot placement. If he had, I wouldn't be in this predicament. The highway narrowed the closer I got to the coast. The corners tightened. The pine trees that gave my hometown its name lined up like soldiers on the hills, both sides of the road. Their tall, sturdy silhouettes, achingly familiar. Pine Harbor. Apart from the odd weekend visit home, made solely with the purpose of appeasing my mother, I'd barely spent any time there in years. This trip was different. It would be my first extended stay since I'd left 14 years before, a skittish newlywed clutching a suitcase, heading out into the unknown, certain only that what was out there had to be better than what I was leaving behind. "Please, Taylor," my mother had begged the night before over the phone, which had immediately put me on high alert. My mother hated begging. "Never beg for anything you can take care of yourself," she'd always told us growing up. "There's no one else I can trust to look after him while I'm gone," she'd continued. "You know I wouldn't ask unless I was desperate." I'd shrugged out of the sheets and rolled to one side, perching on the edge of the bed as the circulation had returned to my extremities. My bedroom windows were open, but the air refused to move, and the summer heat was stifling. Gone where? She'd sighed, the sound loud through the phone. It was a sigh well honed by practice. "I knew you'd forget. I'm going on the cruise, remember?" I'd squeezed my eyes shut. Right. The cruise. Not a cruise. The cruise. The one my mother had been looking forward to since she booked it a year ago. Almost 3 weeks around the Caribbean with 4 of her friends. The plan concocted over drinks after the funeral of Ellen's husband, Frank. They'd decided life was short, that they must seize the day. Apparently, this meant cocktails around a pool and casino nights on board a floating palace. "I haven't forgotten," I'd lied. "I just can't in good conscience leave him home by himself," she'd fretted. "It was a dubious enough idea before, but now? What if he falls again and lies undiscovered for days, dying alone, of starvation and neglect?" Or, I'd offered a different perspective. What if he's fine? I can't take the risk. Can't you pay someone to do it? A nurse or someone? He doesn't like strangers. He doesn't like anyone. Taylor! Especially me. Taylor. Mom. You know I wouldn't ask if there was another option. Maybe if I wasn't leaving tomorrow, I could figure something else out. But I have a matter of hours to sort something. You're my only hope. I'd pinched the skin between my eyebrows and accepted my fate. She didn't ask for much, my mother. I could hardly turn her down in her hour of need. Fine. I guess I'm done sleeping anyway. I'll have a coffee and get on the road. How long will it take you to get here? 7 hours. It's too much. Why can't you move home now that you and... She didn't need to finish. New York is my home now. My business is here. So, you could just move your business here. There's a few vacant shops in town that would be perfect. It's not as simple as that. I've built up a following here. You know that. She'd given up, changed tack. I don't suppose there's any chance Adam might come with you. Who? Be as obtuse as you like, Taylor. He's still your husband. No, Mother. Adam will not be coming with me. Are you sure you two can't work things out? The hope in her voice did something to my heart. This is where you fell in love, she'd added. Maybe being back here, around familiar surroundings, will remind you both of that. It's not me who needs reminding, I'd pointed out. And considering the fact that I haven't seen Adam in 8 months, and the last I heard he was still very much with that skank, Taylor! Sorry, slut from the gym. She'd tutted. Considering all that, I'd continued, I'd say it's very unlikely he will be accompanying me. You were just so good together. Everyone thought so. I'd felt the words land like a kick in the guts. Not everyone.
Chapter 2. Jack. The table was sticky with spilled beer and lobster shell detritus. After 8 months, I still found it entertaining to watch people who had never demolished a whole lobster before give it a try. It wasn't so entertaining when you were the one who had to clean up after them. Bits of shell and flesh went everywhere, even the walls. I finished clearing and wiping down the table, restocking the cutlery and napkin holder, then picked up the tray loaded with dirty dishes. It was only as I headed towards the kitchen that I realized Hannah had come downstairs and was sitting on a bar stool, watching me. She'd helped herself to a bottle of wine from behind the bar and had poured a glass, twirling the stem between her fingers, a sure sign that she was feeling either sad or bored. "Are you almost finished?" she asked as I drew near her. "Not for a while yet." She sighed. "I'm bored." Bingo. Well, you know what I'm going to say to that. "Set a table," she said, mimicking my voice. "Wipe down the bar, take an order." She blew her hair out of her eyes. "Newsflash, it's too hot to do any of those things." "You don't have to do all three," I pointed out, smiling. "Just pick one and start there." She gestured around the room to where various staff were carrying out their duties. "That's what these guys are paid to do." "That doesn't mean you can't help out." "You shouldn't even be doing that," she replied, gesturing towards the tray I was holding. "You're the manager. It's not a good look." "This isn't like one of your fancy restaurants you're used to back home," I reminded her. "And you know I'm not the kind of manager to stand around in a penguin suit acting like I'm better than anyone else." "That's a shame. You look cute in a penguin suit." "Hannah." "What?" she said petulantly. It's a compliment. Am I not allowed to compliment you anymore? I checked to make sure no one was within earshot. The rumor mill was already in overdrive. No need to add fuel to it. I just want to keep things professional. She sighed. Whatever. At least you referred to LA as home, I suppose. You haven't done that in a while. I was beginning to think you were starting to like it here. I do like it here. But you prefer LA. I pulled a face. I don't know. This place isn't so bad. What do you mean you don't know? Does it matter? Yes, it matters a lot, actually. I put the tray on top of the bar while I considered my reply. Okay, well, this place is growing on me, I guess. The slower pace of life, the nature right in your doorstep. I've even made some friends. Her eyes narrowed. What are you saying? It's really not that bad. You'd probably like it too if you spent more than a few weeks at a time here. A few weeks is more than enough for me, she retorted. Even that's too much sometimes. Well, then I guess you've got yourself a bit of a problem, haven't you? I shifted the tray to balance the weight. Seeing as you bought yourself a business here. I don't have to be here full time for this place to work. I know that. Even when you're here part-time, this place works just fine without you. It's not like you lift a finger to do anything around here. My tone was mild, not betraying how irked I really was. She held up one hand and showed me her long, perfectly manicured pink nails. You want me to risk breaking one of these when there isn't a decent manicurist in this town capable of fixing it? Have you even given the local salon a chance? Because I've heard nothing but good things. The woman who owns it, Addison, comes in for happy hour every Friday and seems nice. She shuddered. My girl in the city would kill me if I went to someone else. Literally. Not literally. Okay, maybe not literally, but I certainly wouldn't be able to show my face there ever again. She pouted. I'd be a social outcast, and you don't want that, do you? I had to laugh. She was spoiled, but I'd known that from the moment I'd met her. I couldn't be mad at her now when it was just the way she'd always been. It was me who had changed, not her. I don't have time to stand around chatting, I told her briskly. Either make yourself useful or entertain yourself. Fine, I will, she sniffed. There's a new romance on Netflix I wanted to watch anyway. I just came down for a bottle of wine and to tell you that I'll be heading back to LA tomorrow. Again? You've only been here a week. 8 days, actually. I tried not to show the flicker of annoyance I felt. Fine. Drive safe to the airport. Come with me? I can't. Why not? Because I have this place to run, I reminded her. Your business. As your boss, I hereby grant you the time off to come back to the city with me. It'll be fun. We can catch up with friends. Her voice softened. Do some of the things we used to enjoy doing. No. Don't just say no. Sleep on it. Let me know in the morning. I don't need to. I picked up the tray again. The answer will still be no. Please come. You're no fun anymore. Don't you think we deserve to have fun after everything we've been through? It was a dirty tactic, and I resented her for resorting to it. Do whatever it is that makes you happy. But don't get mad at me if I'd rather stay here and work." She stood up abruptly, picking up the glass and the bottle of wine. "I wish I'd never bought this place." I took a step backwards so she could pass. "Well, you did, and you asked me to manage it for you. I'm just doing what you wanted, Hannah, for your future. You might not be able to appreciate it now, but hopefully one day you will. Don't count on it," she retorted, then flounced off past me towards the stairs that led to the apartment upstairs. I watched her leave, feeling drained and frustrated.
Chapter 3. Taylor. As I rode through the town, the nerves in my stomach kicked up a notch at the sight of so many familiar places. Every street corner, every bench seat, the sidewalks, the wharf, they all held memories. Memories I'd spent a long time trying to forget. It was summer. The sweltering heat, relentless, and the ferry had just come in, purging another batch of sandal-clad tourists to swarm through the picturesque town and historical paths around the island. You could drive across the bridge to Pine Harbor, as I'd just done, but most tourists preferred the scenic trip on the old ferries that shuffled between the mainland and the numerous islands off the coast of Maine. Settled in 1786, Pine Harbor was originally founded by seafarers and loggers from Massachusetts and Nova Scotia, who'd been drawn to the area because of the harbor and the forests of white pine trees that surrounded it. Originally a shipbuilding town, the last yard had closed in the 1960s, but the lobster fishermen still thrived, as well as the oyster farmers. I rode through town slowly, checking out what had changed. Not much. And what was new? Again, not a hell of a lot. With its old buildings, manicured town green, and picturesque wharf covered with colorful lobster buoys, the place looked as picture-perfect as ever. My family lived on the other side of town, 10 minutes along the coast, towards the northern point of the island. My mother, no doubt alerted by the sound of my bike coming down the long, tree-lined driveway, was waiting for me beside the old garage before the noise of the engine had even died away. As I slowed down and parked, I took a moment to surreptitiously study her through the visor of my helmet. In 2 months, she'd be turning 56, but she looked at least a decade younger, thanks to the yoga she did every morning and the fact that she never sat still. She had a figure most 20-year-olds would envy, and the cute little strapless playsuit she was wearing to combat the summer heat showed off her toned and tanned legs. Only the fine lines around her eyes and the graying silver streaks in her hair gave away her true age. "Sorry," I preempted, pulling my helmet off. "I know I'm late, but I had to sort out cover at work and organize someone to water my plants." This wasn't true. I'd actually forgotten about my plants until I was halfway here. I'd stopped buying myself houseplants years ago because, despite my best intentions, the damned things were more fragile than a newborn baby and had a tendency to die on me, despite my best efforts. Occasionally, someone who didn't know me well enough would gift me one. If it thrived on neglect, it was welcome to stay. If not, it soon joined its predecessors in the bin. "I can't believe you rode that thing here," she tutted. "I can't believe you're still riding it at all." I slung my helmet over the handlebars and started peeling off my gloves. Now that I'd stopped riding, the lack of a breeze to cool me down meant my bike safety clothing suddenly felt oppressively heavy, and I could feel sweat pooling in the curve of my lower spine. Bit of an expensive garage ornament if I don't. "You know how I feel about it." "I do." "Come here." She pulled me in for a hug, and I held my breath against the onslaught of her perfume. "You're too thin," she said. "Is there such a thing?" "Yes." She pulled back, holding me at arm's length and looking me up and down. "It's not healthy. And look at those shadows underneath your eyes. You look tired. I thought it was sorted." "It is," I lied. "But someone woke me up in the middle of the night, remember?" "If I knew you were going to ride this thing here, I would have gone with another option." "I thought you said you had no other option." "There's always another option." I picked my helmet back up. "In that case, I'll see you later. Enjoy the cruise." "Don't be silly." She took it off me. "You're here now." "Where is he?" I asked her, as we linked arms and walked side by side along the track that led to the house. The trees were tall, even more so than I remembered. But then a decade worth of growth would do that. "Inside, settled into his armchair with the fan on." "What's the damage?" "Bruises mostly, tenderness, damaged pride." "Can't imagine that's helped his mood any." "He says he doesn't need a babysitter." "We're in agreement then." "I told him you're just here to keep him company." "How did that go down?" "Not well," she admitted. I shook my head. "This is going to be a hell of a long 3 weeks. I hope you've left the key for the liquor cabinet somewhere handy." She snorted. "Good luck finding anything in there. There's only your father's old spirit bottles, and they're mostly full of water now." "Ah." My face crinkled up sheepishly. "You knew about that?" "That you and your brother used to siphon off the spirits and water down what was left? Of course I knew." "You never said anything." "Would it have stopped you?" "Probably not." "Exactly." She smiled, squeezing my arm. "It's good to have you home, baby girl, despite the circumstances." "This is just temporary," I reminded her. "I know." "Then don't smile like that." "Like what?" "Like you know something I don't. Like you're plotting something." "Me? Plotting?" "Mom." She stopped walking and put her hands on her hips. "I didn't push Ray down the stairs in order to get you here, if that's what you're insinuating." "I know you wouldn't stoop that low." "Good. All I'm saying is that this place—" She lifted her face to the sky and breathed the salty air in deeply, smiling as she exhaled again. "It gets under your skin. Reminds you what's really in your heart." I groaned. "That's... wow, I forgot how cheesy you can be." "Am I cheesy, though? Or am I just right?" "Definitely cheesy. Hallmark card cheesy." "Nothing wrong with a good Hallmark card." We'd reached the end of the driveway and emerged onto the large lawn that surrounded the house. A load of washing flapped in the breeze on the washing line on the back lawn. There was the sweet smell of rose in the air from the pink flowers blooming near the deck. Despite myself, I felt a jolt of happiness. My childhood home. She'd had it repainted since the last time I was here. The walls were a crisp, clean white. The shutters around the windows, navy blue. Built in the 1940s, the 6-bed, 4-bath house was 2 stories high and just over 3,000 square feet in total. Sitting on 4.5 acres, most of which was covered in trees, the house perched right above the beach. This far out of town, and with the nearest neighbor 2 acres away, we were lucky enough to have it to ourselves. The beach itself was sandy, but the shoreline was rocky. At low tide, it was dotted with rock pools and a natural swimming hole. I could smell the water, hear it lightly lapping against the rocks. Inexplicably, I felt the need to feel it on my skin, even though I hadn't swum in the ocean in years. "House looks good," I told her. "Thanks. I had Hudson and his boy paint it 2 summers ago. They replaced a few worn boards, tidied the whole thing for me." Hudson's boy, Owen, was my age. "How is Owen?" "Good. Married, couple of kids." "Who'd he marry?" "Out-of-towner." "She nice?" "I haven't had a lot to do with her, but seems so. Stays at home with his kids." "Her kids, too, I'd imagine." "Obviously not a career woman." "Because there's so many careers on offer here," I drawled sarcastically. "Life is what you make of it, Taylor." "You sound like Forrest Gump." "He is a very wise man." "He's a character in a movie, Mom." "Whatever. Anyway, they're always advertising for new realtors. And like I said, there are plenty of empty shops in town." "And the fact that they're empty isn't a giant red flag to you?" "No, just people bringing the wrong businesses to town. Like the lady who opened that." She waved a hand in the air as she tried to think of the words. "I told you about it. She had crystals and those little stone Buddha statues, dragons, angels, books about mythical creatures, and self-help books written by ladies with too much money. No call for any of that around here. 3 months she lasted before she upped and left in the middle of winter." "I don't blame her. Winter here can suck the life out of you." "Don't be so dramatic. Anyway, she didn't leave because of the weather." "Whatever her reasons. Good on her for trying." "Now, an art gallery / tattoo studio?" she said pointedly. "That'd go down well with the tourists and the locals." I smiled at her sweetly. "The second you're back, I'm leaving." "We'll see." She checked her watch. "I need to finish packing." "You're not packed?" I fished my phone out of an inside pocket on my jacket and checked the time myself. Jesus, Mom, talk about leaving it to the last second. "Don't stress. It's just a couple of last-minute things." "It's not me who will be stressing if you miss your flight." We both turned at the sound of a car horn as a silver Nissan pulled up at the garage. My mother's friends, colorful in the loose, gaudy clothing they'd chosen in preparation for the cruise, and an unlimited buffet, spilled out and hurried along the path towards us. "Brace yourself," my mother said, smiling brightly at them. "Taylor," Angela said, ignoring my body language and pulling me in for a hug. My mother's perfume was joined by hers. Something bold and in your face, a bit like she was. She pulled back and held me at arm's length, looked me up and down. "You're too thin." Mom nodded, pleased to have it confirmed. "That's exactly what I said. Give me a second, girls. I just need to say goodbye to Ray and grab my things." "Okay, Moira," Margaret said, with the look of someone who knew my mother and her timekeeping all too well. "But don't take too long. We have a long drive ahead of us, and you know I like to check in early." "Yes, Margaret," my mother replied, rolling her eyes at me before running up the stairs at the side of the house. "While you wait, help me convince Taylor she needs to move back here." I gaped after her, open-mouthed, although really I shouldn't have been surprised she'd thrown me under the bus. When it came to getting her own way, my mother could be ruthless. "You should move back here," Ellen said. "They clearly don't have proper food in the city, and men like a bit of meat on a woman." "Not Adam," I told her. "His new girlfriend lifts weights. She's very sinewy." "It's terrible what happened there," Margaret said, shaking her head. Just terrible. I mean, it wasn't great, I agreed. But I think there are probably worse things that happen in the world every day. Don't give up hope, Angie said. He still might come back to you. It was my turn to snort. I bloody hope not. You don't mean that. Hell yes, I do. Why would I want him back? Because he's your husband and because you two were always so good together. People really need to stop saying that. Why? It's true. You have no idea. So tell us. I squeezed my eyes shut, decided it was time to play a little dirty myself. You know Mom hasn't actually finished packing, right? It worked. As Margaret squealed indignantly and headed inside to corral my mother, followed by the others, I took a deep breath, stared up at the house, and braced myself. I can do this, I told myself, but the nerves were back in full force.
Chapter 4. Jack. Less than 10 minutes after locking up the restaurant, my truck was bouncing down the driveway that led to the cabin where I'd been living the last 5 months. The smell of pine filling the cab through the open windows. When I first moved to Pine Harbor 8 months ago, I'd lived in a room above the restaurant. There was a whole apartment up there. 2 bedrooms, each with their own bathroom, a kitchen, large living area with a deck that gave incredible views over the town and harbor. The whole building belonged to Hannah, and even though she wasn't there full-time, flitting between the city and the bay as needed, it didn't feel right sharing the apartment with her. "You're abandoning me now too?" She'd accused me with tears in her eyes when I'd informed her that I was moving out. "That's not fair," I chided her. "The only reason I'm here in Pine Harbor is for you, remember? You're still going to see me every day. I just think we could both do with our own space." "You're not even going to ask me how I feel about it? You've already made your mind up?" I'd nodded. "Signed the lease today." "I don't want you to go." "I really think it's for the best." "For you, maybe." She'd shot back, and in the morning, she'd been gone. I never knew how long she'd be gone, but she always came back eventually, acting like nothing had happened, and I was happy to play along with that. It was easier than always fighting. At the top of the driveway, I swung around the last corner, and my headlights illuminated a couple of branches that had come down across the track. Big trees dotted the property, and were prone to dropping a few branches every time we had high winds, as we'd had the night before. I left the truck running while I dragged them off the drive and piled them up in the undergrowth. Tomorrow, I bring the saw and chop them into firewood for Moira for next winter. The lawns needed mowing again soon too. It wasn't part of the deal, property maintenance, but I liked doing it, and I knew Moira appreciated it. The cabin was warm and homey, and just as you'd imagine an oceanside cabin in Maine to be. It came fully furnished, and although some of the furnishings wouldn't have been my own choice, like the old duck decoys in rows on top of the beams in the roof, or the shower curtain with its moose pattern that matched the moose lamps and moose kitchen utensil holder, I was just grateful I didn't have to bother with any of it myself. Interior design had never been a passion of mine, and the furnishings from the apartment I'd left behind in the city to move here had all fitted into the back of a truck. I donated them to Goodwill. severing all ties with the life I had left behind. It was 10:30, too late for a beer, but too early for bed. Even if I was tired, the heat was still stifling, and I knew from experience I would only toss and turn for hours if I tried. It always took me a while to switch my brain off enough from work to be able to fall asleep anyway. Luckily, my first run on the beach after I had moved in here, I'd found the perfect spot to cool off and de-stress. I grabbed my towel and headed out the door. Following the trail down to the beach, I dodged the various tree roots that emerged through the soil, ready to twist an unsuspecting angle. Feeling the moment the ground underfoot change from the gritty dirt of the forest floor to the sandy beach, the sand still warm from the sun. Stiff grasses brushed up against my legs. The cicada chorus was loud in the quiet of the night. The only other noise, the gentle swooshing of the waves meeting the shore. The moon and stars overhead were bright enough that I didn't need a torch, although I carried one with me as usual, just in case. I was still getting used to how many stars there were here, away from the bright lights of the city. I made my way along the beach to the rocks at the end of the small bay, clambering up them to the edge of the swimming hole that had been carved into the rocks over time. At high tide, the ocean flooded the pool with clean, fresh Atlantic salt water. At its deepest point, it was just over 6 feet, and at its widest point, about 9. I dropped my towel and the torch onto a ledge and reached for the ties on the front of my board shorts. "I wouldn't do that if I were you," the voice in the dark said idly. "Not unless you want to add public indecency to the trespass charge you're already facing." She added, "Who's there?" "I could ask you the same question." "You could," I agreed, but I asked first. There was a splashing sound. "Would you believe me if I said I was a mermaid?" "That depends. Are you a mermaid?" "No." She sounded regretful. "But I used to spend a lot of time while growing up imagining that I was. Imagine having the freedom to go wherever you wanted in the world, all the amazing sights you would see." Scanning the pool, I made out the headline of her head at the other end of the pool, silhouetted against the sky. "This is private property. How did you even get here?" "The same way as you did. I walked. The difference is I'm allowed to be here. You're the one who's trespassing." "No, I'm not." "Yes, you are." "I'm not," I insisted. "Whatever. You can argue about it with the cops. I've already called them, and they're on their way under lights and sirens. We tend to take trespassers pretty seriously around these parts." I smirked. In all the months I'd lived here, I'd never seen the cops in a hurry to get anywhere. "Oh, really? What did you call them on? Your mermaid shell phone?" I heard a snort of laughter. "No, just my regular old mobile." "Well, I hope it's Jerry who shows up. I haven't seen him around for a few weeks. I know he's pretty busy, though. Marianne must be about ready to drop the baby any day now." There was a long pause. "You know Jerry?" she asked, her tone suspicious. "I do. Do you know Jerry?" "I almost broke his arm in the 5th grade when he pulled my hair in class, so yeah, you could say I know Jerry." you're a local. I'd met a lot of people through the restaurant since moving here, but her voice wasn't ringing any bells. I felt around for the torch I'd put down on a rock nearby. You're pretty smart for a trespasser. Thanks, but like I keep telling you, I'm not trespassing. I found my torch and clicked it on, beaming the light in her direction. She recoiled under its bright glare. Jesus Christ, are you trying to blind me? I'm trying to identify you. Well, could you maybe not shine it directly into my eyeballs? I kind of like my retinas working, so I prefer it if you didn't burn them with that damn light. Sorry. I turned the torch to the side, so it wasn't directly aimed at her anymore. Look, why don't you just leave quietly and I won't take this any further? Or, she replied idly, swimming across from one side of the pool to the other, how about you leave and I won't take it any further? Realizing we were at a stalemate, I changed tack. Okay, seriously now, who are you? And no, I don't for a second believe you're a mermaid. I'm not telling you. You're refusing to tell me your name. That's what I said, wasn't it? Did I not say it out loud? I aimed the light in her face again and waited. Oh, she sighed. Fine, turn the light off, and then, if it'll shut you up, I'll tell you my name. I'm trying to enjoy the night sky here, and you're ruining it. Deal. I clicked the torch off. Name. Taylor. You got a last name, Taylor? You sound an awful lot like a cop. Anyone ever tell you that? Once or twice. Calderwood, she said. My name is Taylor Calderwood. It took a few moments for it to register why her name sounded so familiar. Wait, Calderwood as in the lady who owns that big old house up there? Yeah, that Calderwood. So she's your mother? Yep. I connected the dots. You're the daughter who got married and moved to the city years ago. How do you know that? She mentioned you when I first moved out here. Moved where? Here. Where is here exactly? Didn't she say? Your mother is my landlord. I'm pretty sure I know if you were living in my mother's house. That's the kind of thing she'd definitely have mentioned. Not the house. I'm in the cabin. Which cabin? Our cabin? Yes. The cabin that's 80 yards from our house? That cabin? It's more like 120 yards, but yes. I can't believe she rented you the cabin. When? About 7 months ago? I don't believe you. Ask her then. I can't. She's gone on a cruise. I take it that's why you're here. Yes, that's why I'm here. Someone has to look after the old man, and unfortunately, I drew the short straw. And you're angry about that? Because you sound kind of angry. I'm not angry, I'm pissed off. I processed this. Isn't that the same thing? I just can't believe she never mentioned you. We talk on the phone at least once a week. She's told me all about Ray's disgusting earwax and her hairdresser's scandalous affair with a married man. But did she ever mention the fact that she's rented out the family cabin to some random stranger? I started to answer, but she continued on without waiting. I mean, who even are you? And how did this all come about? Surely she didn't advertise the cabin for rent. Why would she? She doesn't exactly need the money. And how did you even find out about it? Has everything been done properly, through the proper channels with an actual tenancy agreement? Did she bother doing any reference checks before letting a complete stranger move in? I waited. Well? She demanded. Oh, you're asking me this time. That was a lot of questions, but let me see if I can ease some of your concerns. My name is Jack. No, she didn't advertise. Someone mentioned the cabin one day at work, a friend of your mother's, so I drove out and asked her if she would consider leasing it to me. There isn't a formal agreement, but we shook hands on it. As far as I'm concerned, that's as good as any legal document. Your mother seemed happy with that too. She said that she's good at reading people and could tell I am a good person. I haven't missed a payment yet, and I won't. I also help your mom out by doing the lawns and other odd jobs around the place. This arrangement suits us both and is working well. You have nothing to worry about, I promise. That's easy for you to say, but my mother is, how do we say this? She's kind and caring, but she's also easily taken advantage of. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with your arrangement. I've been living here for 7 months already. Don't you think that if I was trying to scam your mother in some way, I'd have done it already? A long pause. Good point. I'm still not happy about it, though, and you better believe I'll be doing some background checks. What's your last name, Jack? Garrity. And where do you hail from, Jack Garrity? L.A. L.A.? She whistled. You're a long way from home. I am. I didn't want to go down that track and have to answer questions about why I'd left there or why I'd moved here, so I changed the subject. Do you think that now we've got the introductions out of the way and established that neither of us are actually here illegally, I could get into the water? It's muggy as hell, and all I can think about is getting in that water. There was a long pause. I suppose, technically, that's within your rights as a tenant. Is that a yes? It's an I can't stop you. So, a yes. Oh my God, yes, it's a yes. Because if you don't want me to get in while you're in there, I won't. I can go back to the cabin and come back later when you've finished, if you'd prefer. It's fine. You're sure? Just stop talking and get in the water. Okay. My eyes had adjusted to the dark, and I could make out more details about her now. She had long hair, piled in a messy bun on the top of her head, with flyaway bits hanging down, exposing a long, slender neck, lean, athletic shoulders above the waterline. When she turned her head, the moon highlighted the lines of her face, her cheekbones and jaw, the tip of her nose. Stepping forward, I curled my toes over the edge of the rocks on the side of the pool. I'm going to dive into the water now. Do you always announce everything before you do it? Not always, I replied. Then tucked my head between my arms and dove into the end where I knew the water was deepest, disturbing the black mirror surface that reflected the stars. The water was cold and refreshing. Coming back up for air, I shook my head, wiping the water from my eyes, smiling because I couldn't help it. These night swims had a way of calming my mind, resetting the day. As I did a lazy breaststroke to the opposite side of the pool from her, a playful breeze swirled around me, carrying the salty scent of the sea and, briefly, something not quite as pleasant. A dead fish washed up on the beach, maybe, rotting under the heat of the sun. Then the breeze changed direction, and the smell was gone. I just wanted to warn you.
Chapter 5. Taylor. I frowned as I processed his last words. Did you just say, warn me? No, sorry. Warn wasn't the right word. What I meant was I just wanted to make you aware that I was getting into the water, so you weren't frightened. I weighed up my options, which were few and far between. If this guy wanted to harm me, there wouldn't be a hell of a lot I could do about it, apart from fight back. Down here on the beach, no one would hear a call for help. And although I was pretty fast on my feet, I'd still have to get out of the pool and past him before I could try and get up the path to my house. But my instincts weren't screaming at me, like they had in past situations where there had been even a hint of danger. The vibes Jack was giving off were more like golden retriever vibes. Harmless and potentially adorable. Do I need to be frightened? I asked. No, he said, sounding offended by the very thought. God, no. Never. I would never hurt you in any shape or form. That's a pretty big promise to make. What if we kept meeting in the pool every night and fell in love, and then you decided that you couldn't be with a mermaid after all, so broke it off, and I spent the rest of my life here, pining under the stars? I swam slowly to the other side of the pool, and he did the same, as if we were sharks circling each other. Somewhere down the bay, a seal barked. Just the once, as if that's all he could be bothered with in the heat. Just kidding. It'd be more likely to be me who did the dumping. How do you figure that? We mermaids are transient folk. Don't like to be tied down to any one place in particular. I suppose you prefer to keep a sailor in every port? God, no. Imagine the effort involved. Trying to remember the right name every time. The potential to muck it up would be huge. He laughed. So, why weren't you? Scared? Yeah. I mean, we're far enough from town that I'd say we're pretty much on our own out here. And the closest house is, what, 400 or 500 yards away? I'm pretty sure it's a summer vacation home, too. Currently uninhabited. The grass by the gate hasn't been cut for a month or so, and there have been no new tire tracks on the drive. Even after we had all that rain a couple weeks back. I was taken aback. Who even notices things like that? I do. I like to keep aware of my surroundings. Anyway, I've only met your uncle.